Hello everyone, my name is Trevor Grassi and today I'm going to be taking you on a quick tour of the GEM, the GEM, which stands for the Grand Egyptian Museum. And this is the largest museum on Earth. They've been talking about opening it for 5 years or more now. They kept saying it's going to be opening soon, but basically we've been waiting because it's been a major construction project. It's right at the Giza Plateau. And it's finally, just a couple years ago, they opened one of the main entrance halls, and then just last year they opened what's called the Grand Staircase Gallery, which leads up to the main galleries. And so they've been having these kind of small openings leading up to a bigger one, but just about a month ago in October, I think it was October 16th, 2024, they finally opened all the main galleries. And this just happened to coincide with the day that I flew into Egypt for my fourth research trip there. I've been working at Giza for several years with my friend William Brown, and we've been working on trying to expose all the underground chambers and temples and tombs at the Giza Plateau that are related to the ancient prehistoric halls of records there. So if you haven't seen that, that series I've released 3 episodes of so far is called The Secret Underworld of Giza, and highly recommend you go check that out if you haven't seen it, because we reveal a lot of information about the Giza Plateau that no one's ever heard of before. But today I'm going to open up a kind of new series where I'm going to go through temple by temple and pyramid by pyramid and visit every single site in Egypt. On this past trip, I got to go all the way to southern Upper Egypt, to Luxor and Karnak and Dendera, all the temples in the south. And I've also documented many more areas around the Giza Plateau and more underground spaces, as well as many very remote locations that no one's ever heard of or been to before, or at least very few people have ever seen or made films about. So I'm going to try and use this series to get into a lot more of the unknown spaces of Egypt. But I'm going to kick it off with this tour of the GEM, because we've been waiting for years for it to open. It is the largest museum on Earth. It houses over 24,000 artifacts from the country of Egypt from all different periods. And when I finally got in there, it was really something to see. So I'm going to start by showing the outside here. Okay, so now I'm going to start showing, this is the outside of the museum. It's the eastern side of it, facing down towards the Great Pyramids. This is driving up to the main entrance. And when you get down to this end of the museum, you can see that it faces down to the pyramids, and there are some huge glass windows where you can actually look at the pyramids from the end of the museum. And eventually there will be a whole causeway going along straight from the museum to the pyramids, which will be the main entrance they want people to use to get to the pyramids. Over here you see on the east side, walking up to the main entrance with this kind of modern pyramidal structures. And this is walking in through the main entrance, where you can see the entire main huge entry hall. That is, there you can see the giant granite statue, which is, they say Ramses II. If you see statues like that, these huge single piece, 30 feet tall statues, 9 times out of 10, no matter where you are in Egypt, they're going to say that's Ramses II. To be honest, Ramses II liked to put his name on a lot of statues that I believe might be actually pre-dynastic, coming from a totally different age. It's very possible many of those are actually someone else, but nevertheless, it's a beautiful statue. It's got these pools of water around it, and actually there are certain times of day when the sun will come through the ceiling of this huge reception chamber here and actually pinpoint the face of this statue, which I think is a pretty cool architectural feature that was worked in here. I gotta say kudos to the designer there. So actually, as a side note, I looked this up, and the day I arrived at the museum itself was the 21st of October, 2024, which is the only day out of the year when this effect of light hitting the Ramses II statue's face actually happens. Sadly, I did not know about this this special effect when I was there, or I would have filmed it myself. But you can see in these pictures from a Reddit article that it's pretty cool how this works. There's a beam of light that just comes and pinpoints the face, and this only happens on the 21st of October. So too bad I didn't know while I was there, but that's pretty cool. There you can see the statue, and there's some other staircases. This is the back of it. So this is a single piece of red granite carved into a giant statue that's right there in the front, all by itself. You can kind of look up into those glass windows there where the main galleries are that have just been opened. Yeah, so it's a pretty cool feature that the sun will actually hit this statue's face certain times of the day, which is very much like, you can kind of see a spot of sun on his head there, but it's very much kind of like the statues at Abu Simbel in southern Egypt. You can see that one day out of the year it will go all the way, the sun will go to the back of the tunnel and penetrate to actually go across 3 of the 4 faces of the statues at the back there. So it's kind of a nice nod to the original structure of the temples, how they worked that feature in. These are 2 of the only other statues that are there in that huge front reception chamber hall there. These are also pretty large. They're probably 20 feet or taller. But other than that, this is basically all that's in that first main hall, which was the first area to be opened a couple years ago, and you only got to see these first couple statues. Then last year we had, this is the grand staircase gallery, where there was a bunch more statues that you'll kind of see as we go up through. And I'm not going to be able to say the exact dynasties or time periods of each specific one, but I kind of have an idea of which I mean, these are all from Old Kingdom through New Kingdom. And a lot of them I can kind of explain what the stone material is, but this entire stairwell has a pretty good selection of stuff to look at, so that was all people got to see back in 2023 when it first opened. And I tried to go last year when I was there, but I only had a couple days left, and you had to buy the tickets online, which I didn't realize, and by the time I got there they didn't have any left for that day, so I missed it. But on this trip I got to see everything, so it was very exciting. These are just a bunch of the ones towards the bottom of the grand staircase gallery. This one's pretty eroded, but you see these beautiful pillars. Here's Akhenaten. There's only 2 statues of Akhenaten that I found at the new museum. There's a bunch more at the old one, the Cairo Museum. And here's, I think, some basalt sphinxes. They're very black, so I think those are basalt. There's 2 of them around this giant archway here. That's definitely the red granite from Aswan. And you can see how perfectly these hieroglyphs are carved in there. The top's a little eroded, but then you have another of the sphinxes on this side. Very interesting looking. So there are 2 galleries there's 2 exhibits that haven't been imported to the new museum yet, which is a Tutankhamun exhibit and also the Khufu's Solar Boat Museum exhibit that aren't there yet, but basically everything else is here. And here, this box you can see is so precisely carved, perfectly smooth faces. This is basically a mirror finish on the outside before the hieroglyphs were inscribed in, and you see these perfect 90-degree angles. Absolutely amazing design and execution. So there's a couple of these boxes on this stairwell going up, which is again not even a part of the main exhibits yet. This is just basically the entrance staircase that you walk up when you're heading to the main exhibits. Here you see a couple of the pillars, which are, notice that they are actually monolithic, single piece, single stones each one. A lot of those pillars later were built in pieces, but some of the older ones were actually the ones where they were able to do it in single pieces. That's another single piece of granite right there. It's like an obelisk. It doesn't really have the classic pyramidal top, but a beautiful granite with all these cartouches. Those are the names of kings. And it kind of had like a flattened top to it. Then this is a pyramidion, which means like the smaller pyramids. Usually the top peak of a pyramid would be a single piece like this. But there aren't many in this very steep style, which is more the Nubian style, more like the pyramids in Meroe, Sudan. And so this is a pretty interesting piece. It's very, very beautifully inscribed on all four sides, so I gotta walk around to this one. But you don't often see those very steep ones. You do see them all throughout Sudan from the Nubian culture, but these figures on it don't look Nubian. They look more classically Egyptian. Yeah, beautiful inscriptions. I mean, perfect, really perfect. This is a very interesting piece. It looks like a sarcophagus, but honestly it's not. It's actually this chamber where you'll see inside here there's three figures carved in the back, and it used to be kind of housed over with a covering on top, but it was all one single piece. It wasn't a lid on a box. So this was like a covered little shrine with these statues inside of it. Here's another beautiful Sphinx. I mean, if you look at, for this thing to pass through thousands of years and not be damaged, the perfectly smooth surface of it, you can tell how hard that stone is. And here's the other one. This is definitely the red granite, and again you see these perfectly smooth, perfectly level surfaces. Look at this. It's absolutely perfect. If I had the carpenter's square, I could stick it in these corners. You know, they're perfectly 90 degrees, every single one of them. It's astounding. So these are like resonance chambers. These are meditation chambers, or for sound resonance. Here you can again see how some of these pillars were carved in pieces. They weren't single pieces for the entire thing. They were stacked. And you can see Hathor's face on that one. Here's a statue of Sekhmet in the middle there, between a couple other statues. This figure's got the Waz scepter and the Jed pillar he's holding. Those are some important symbols I'll talk about in some of the later videos. This piece is absolutely amazing. It's probably 15 feet tall. You can see the woman in the back to get an idea of the scale. But again, perfectly carved hieroglyphs in there. Those cartouches all in a line. It's the same name written over and over again in a line. When I come around this side, you'll see there's three figures carved in the front of it, all one single piece. It's quite a beauty. You'll see that third one all the way on the left. It's got both of its legs together. That's kind of the mummiform Osiris look, where kind of reminds you of the Oannes or Dagon and the Sumerian, where their legs are both seen as one single piece. You see both of his feet together there. It's interesting. This is another Sekhmet, and I kind of get some close-ups to show you how well all the muscles are sculpted. Really beautiful Sekhmet statue here. See the headdress. Bottom you have some inscriptions. On the back you have some inscriptions. I think towards the bottom. I guess I didn't show that. So Sekhmet is a very important character I'll talk about when I do the Karnak video. And then we come a little further up, we have these huge stelas that are I mean, they're probably 10 feet tall, 8 feet tall. And you just see the perfection of how these hieroglyphs are carved in is really beautiful. Down at the bottom, you have this perfectly balanced image of some birds or something. Now this one is pretty telltale diorite. When you see the black stone with these like light colored sediments flecked in there, that's usually diorite. And again, you see the two legs created as one. It's that Osiris kind of form. The diorite is so hard. I mean, on the Mohs scale, I believe it's a 7 on the Mohs scale. It means you basically need diamond tools to carve a stone like this. You can tell just by looking at it how hard it is. That's why they chose those stones, because they were so durable, but also very difficult to work them. There's another of the stelas that was kind of cracked and broken, but still you can see all these hieroglyphs pretty well preserved. Another smaller sphinx here, and now we're getting up towards the top of the stairwell that leads into the main galleries. So this was another one that's interesting. It's probably what the original Sphinx used to look like before its head was recarved into a man's face and head. The original Sphinx before that was actually a lioness. So this one's kind of damaged, but that's more what it might have looked like. Here's a great box, very simple, but you can see these kind of architectural motifs carved all around it. See the handles for the lid are also just perfectly symmetrical on both sides. Quite a nice piece here, and I didn't record all the little tags like this, but this one you can kind of see. So with this image here, you can see the main gallery plan on one of the walls. You can see the green areas moving towards the red. That's the oldest periods moving towards the newest. And so the green is the part of the museum that's closest to the pyramids themselves. So when you're looking at the window at the pyramids, you're in the oldest area. And then as you move further away from the pyramids, you're coming towards the late period and Greco-Roman Ptolemaic period. So that's kind of cool, because when you move back in time towards the pyramids, then you look at the pyramids themselves, which I believe are some of the oldest monuments in Egypt. And then it's divided into 3 halls within that schema, where you have in the first one the society, in the middle one the kingship, and in the third one the beliefs. So you have these 3 different topics that each are shown within each era as well. So that's kind of a cool way to lay it out. So basically I'm going to go from this first prehistoric period, the one labeled 01, all the way down up to the later kingdom, number 12, and then going back through the second long haul and then the third long haul. So that's the general approach that I take as I'm moving through here. And this is another wall that kind of just shows more of how it's all laid out, color coded. So there's a couple still images I'm going to show here. This is the view from the top of the staircase where you can see the pyramids. That's the right up at the window there, looking down at them, which is pretty cool. And that's looking back down the stairwell of where we just came from. Now here we have some very old pieces. This is the prehistoric part. And I'm definitely very, very interested in the pre-dynastic and the prehistoric periods of Egypt. So this was very exciting for me. And you can see these are some of the very ancient stone tools that were used. And on their own, by their own words, the museum, the actual, archaeologists are admitting that first of all, we have grinding stones that are going 12,000 to 8,000 years ago. And then we have from 250,000 to 70,000 BC. They're talking about Middle Paleolithic stone tools, hand axes, scrapers, cutting and mining tools, and arrowheads. And then it says from between 700,000 to 250,000 BC. They were also using some of these tools, axes and choppers, and that these are some of the oldest stone tools ever used in Egypt. So this is another statue I wanted to show in this early kingdom section here. I think this is 4th or 5th dynasty. And it's very interesting because this was something that, if you get a closer look at it, this statue really looks like it's alive because it has these crystals inlaid into its eyes. When you look into its eyes, you actually feel like you're looking into someone's actual face, because these crystals make it so lifelike. This was a technique that was lost later on, and you won't find it in the later dynasties. They didn't have that. So just a beautiful technique that was a lost technology. Later they didn't make any of the statues this lifelike. And then here you have this palette that actually has what's called the serpopards on it, which is a very interesting, strange looking animal that kind of has like a cat's body and then these long serpentine necks. There's 2 of them here, kind of interweaving their necks together. And you'll find these also on the Narmer palette, which is of the 1st dynasty. Narmer was known as, or Menes or Mina, he was known as the 1st pharaoh of the 1st dynasty. And then you'll also find it on these Sumerian clay cylinder seals, and you'll see it in a couple other places I've been able to find. It's engraved on some of these magic wands that kind of look like boomerangs, things like that. There's very few examples of it, but there's a couple. And so then there's some of these stone vessels that are absolutely amazing. You'll see some of these are alabaster, which is very difficult to work and get perfect. This is a bowl of alabaster that's, I mean, it's just a few millimeters thick, the entire thing. And you can see that it's very, I mean, this one you could potentially see being created on some sort of lathe or something that would spin it, and you could grind away and slowly work it down to this very thin, you know, shape, but this bowl as well. But there's other of them that have these handles on them, which you can't actually do that. And we think of pottery, it's easy to make things like this out of pottery. If you're sculpting from clay and you've got a potter's wheel, you could make round things like this perfectly symmetrical. But when you're working with stone, it's extremely difficult to do that. And some of these actually show, you can see they have handles on them, which would not allow you to use any kind of spinning lathe-like technology to get that perfect radial geometry on it, because you're carving the handle out of the very same piece, so you can't do it that way. The alabaster, and then there's other kinds of stone we'll show in a little while that are also absolutely incredible. This star-shaped vessel here, it's hard to imagine how some of these were made, especially the harder stones, the granite and diorite, as we're going to see as we move along. So these were all things that you know, my good friend and teacher John Anthony West really brought attention to all this, especially in the series he made called Magical Egypt with Chance Gardner and Vanessa McNeil. In one of those episodes, he really brought attention to these vessels that were at the Cairo Museum at that time, but here you can see several of them, and later in the museum you can see a few more. So getting back into the videos, here's a video I took of one of those sections where it has some of these, where you see this first one definitely has a handle that would make it difficult to carve on any kind of radial machinery. And this one over here is not alabaster, that's either, I'm not sure exactly what kind of stone that is, but what's amazing about the alabaster, like this star bowl, is the light can come through it. So when you put a candle or some source of illumination inside a bowl like this, it's like translucent marble. It's just beautiful. It's amazing. And this shot is showing some of the very first forms of writing. There's a bunch of different small examples of it. There's one very quick tiny piece right there. I can stop for a second. Is you can see the front half of a lioness, and Robert Schock and some other friends, Manu Safes today, and a couple others were working on this theory that this is actually a glyph that's referencing the fact that the Sphinx itself is cut in half with this major fissure going through it. And so perhaps that's the origin of this glyph, and that this glyph is actually related to the Sphinx itself. And so if that's one of the very first hieroglyphs, that's very significant to note. So now this one, this alabaster, very tall vase, is probably 2 feet tall. Really remarkable work. And it's cracked apart but repaired. You can see some more of these vases down on the bottom. And here's more, again, I'm not sure exactly what type of stones those are, but they're very hard stones. And there's another alabaster. I think, yeah, I don't want to say what kind of stone if I don't know exactly, but they're all very hard. And this crystal bowl there on the end is particularly very beautiful. There's another couple photos of those ones there. So then you have yeah, some of these pottery that have the pyramidal kind of designs on them. Some of those came from times before the 4th dynasty, which is when the Great Pyramids were said to be built. So that's interesting. And here you get to see a wide view of between 2 of the large halls. And then this is looking back up towards the Great Pyramids. Here's a case with a bunch of beautiful statues in there. And it took me an entire day to walk through this whole museum. I mean, I got there as early as I could, and literally I'm just filming some very random highlights of what was there, but it would be a very long video if I tried to actually show everything. And I did get I think like 600 photographs as well as all these videos. And look at the lips on these ones, like this top lips. You'd have to have a tool that reaches inside this thing to scoop out the entire inside. How do you do that? Through these thin bottlenecks. And look at that, it's less than a centimeter thick. This is all alabaster again, this translucent type of marble. When you have light inside that, the whole thing lights up. Now this sarcophagus is incredible. I think it's carved of schist. I'm not totally positive on that. I'm pretty sure it's schist, which is a very difficult material again to carve. And you see the bottom of it is perfectly smooth. You have these hieroglyphs banded all around it with Anubis on the bottom, and there's Thoth. And look at these details. Look at the perfection. He's got the Ankh and the Jed pillar. Looks like Isis across his chest for protection. And so here's another view to give some of the broad view of exactly how huge this entire place is. You're seeing just 2 of the main 3 halls here, and you're barely seeing any of them. They're all kind of sloped up on these staircases moving upwards, and again, that's the direction towards the Great Pyramids. Yeah, here's some of the other ones. Now these we're getting to diorite and granite, and again you see all these handles that are just added onto the sides. This again proves they couldn't have been rotary machinery. All of these, most of these ones here are diorite, I believe, which again is so hard. You basically need diamonds to shape these. And the alabaster as well, I think is a bit softer, but it's still just as difficult to work it without it cracking and breaking. So yeah, breccia, diorite, basalt, granite. Here's a long section of a wall relief that's been put in up against one of the walls. These statues in a line are just again, so beautiful. You've got the lions on the thrones, just like Tutankhamun's throne. Had these lions on the sides of it. And again, you can tell that the fact that these have actually, the parts that haven't broken, you can see how perfectly smooth finished they are, how accurate they are. This one looks like schist as well, but you can tell they're all extremely hard stones. It's mind-boggling to imagine how those could have been shaped so perfectly. There's some little boat models. Here in the next hall, you have some wooden sarcophagi. These inlaid eyes, these different stones, gems. And look at these hieroglyphs carved into the wood. Amazing. Perfect. This must be like the Lebanon cedar. And here's another one that has what I call the Hall of Record symbol on it. Because this symbol, we'll find it right on the dream stele of Thutmose IV, right between the Sphinx's two front paws. It's a really beautiful example of that. And so I actually did get the tag on this one because I wanted to know, Coffin of Senbi, Middle Kingdom. I'll talk about that more in a different episode. But then look at this one. I couldn't get over the wings and the jet column on the bottom with the whole third eye. Emblems that I'll also speak about when we get to the Temple of Esna and the Temple of Khnum at Esna. But this one is, it's absolutely amazing. Again, you can see the bottom is perfectly flat surface. There's a lip there you can see between the two that'll keep the lid from slipping at all. So I really tried to capture exactly how perfectly engineered this was. You can see it chipped away a little bit at the top edge of it just to open it up. And I know this one was of schist as well. Now this one is very bizarre. You kind of see kneecaps in there, but it's basically one big body with a very large head comparative to the body size. Just like these two next to it, but this one in particular is absolutely huge. Very bizarre looking. I mean, the fact that they showed these kneecaps and kind of some of the calf muscles, but everything else is just melted together like it's one big body. It's very strange how that's done, but eerily beautiful, I would say. And so that's when we come to the end of the third hall. You can look down into the main entrance hall, and there you see that Ramses II again, if it really is Ramses II. And how big it is compared to all these people who look like ants. And then I think we're going to get into a few photographs that I had taken that I just want to explain a little bit about before we wrap it up. But that's basically a walkthrough of all three of those corridors that are again spanning to, this is like the late kingdom end of the main galleries. On the other end, where you can see the pyramids, is the pre-dynastic early stuff. So here's some boats you can see with, looks more like a Nubian culture, the darker skin tone. These might have been very early. These are some alabaster vessels again, these beautiful lips. Here's some gorgeous jewelry that's just, this was, I think, Middle Kingdom stuff. I'm not sure exactly, but it's very beautiful. And here's some of the papyrus with very early forms of writing. There's another look that shows you some of the scale of these halls you walk through. Another cabinet with a bunch of statues. This beautiful stela in very good condition. There's another, the sarcophagi I think is schist as well. Really incredible. There's like 5 faces just carved into one huge chunk. A couple more different granite and some other type of stone. This guy kneeling who has these offerings, and if you look at his toes, when the toes are crunched forward and they're kneeling in this position, this is what I've heard is that that's a stimulator of the third eye. When you crunch the toes forward, it activates the pineal gland. So that was a posture that you'll see a lot of statues sitting in. The grain of the stone is amazing, the way they worked it into this. And here you see the those ribbon type things. Again, those are motifs that you see on that Hall of Record symbol that I'll talk about in a future episode. Very interesting. Another beautiful alabaster vase. Another beautiful granite vase. Now this is an alabaster sarcophagus. I've seen a couple of these in the tunnels underneath the Djoser Pyramid at Saqqara. There's 2 of them that are down on the 5th or 6th level underneath the Djoser Pyramid, which is very deep. They don't let practically anyone go down there. And they wouldn't even let me take pictures of it, but when we went down there, we saw an alabaster sarcophagus just like this, and when my friend stuck his flashlight through one of the cracks in the lid of it, the entire box lit up. It's like I say, it's like translucent marble. And you can see the light come straight through the stone. It's actually like magic. It's a form of light magic. It's so beautiful. It can actually alter your consciousness by seeing things like this working. It's incredible. I actually found an alabaster sarcophagus at Giza as well when I was walking around. And here's some more of the granite and basalt and diorite vases that are absolutely incredible. No one knows how those could be made. That's another look at the alabaster. The grain of the stone is beautiful. And then we have this wooden sarcophagus again. The way the stone is inlaid into the wood is amazing. I mean, it's just so creative. You know, the way it's designed is so brilliant, and then it's executed perfectly too, just like these hieroglyphs. You rarely see that wood. And this is a painted wooden one. And again, this one is such a good example of that Hall of Record symbol. You see those ribbons again, those like bow tie shapes. So here's a bunch of pallets. Here's a bunch of very small pyramidions around a sarcophagus. This one is just amazing. The wings there, I think, is so beautiful. The really weird sarcophagus. And this is a little golden Horus. Beautiful piece. Here's the other Akhenaten that's in the main galleries. The only other one is over there on the stairs. Then we come back out to where you can see the pyramids at the window, and that's a little model it was showing. I'll show you this model that kind of illustrates the shape of the museum right there is pointing over to the 3 pyramids. The 2 outside walls of the museum point directly to the peaks of the outside 3 pyramids you can see there. The outside 2 of the 3. You can see those lines are going to be pointing directly to the 3 apexes. So that's back to above the grand staircase gallery. When I turn around here, you can see this is the top of it. That's where you enter into the main galleries. And this is now looking back down the main grand staircase gallery where we started from. And so I'm going to share just one more shot of, there's some escalators over to the left there that you can just ride down. So now I'm just riding down the escalators to get one more context shot that'll really show you how big this whole staircase is and all the statues that are laid out on it. And so when you're leaving the museum, this is kind of the way you go back out. You know, I walked up the staircase on my way in because I wanted to film all these things, but here you see another beautiful pyramidion right in the foreground. and in the back more of the statues. Other beautiful sarcophagus back there. So anyway, it's very exciting to have this museum finally open because it has been many years they've been talking about it. It is a beautiful achievement. Architecturally, it's really great to have a huge space to house all these artifacts, because there's also the Cairo Museum at Tahrir Square, which is amazing. It's incredible, and it has so much more of the Akhenaten, the Amarna period statues, and some really incredible stuff. But the fact is, it's all packed in to that museum, and there's not a lot of space for how many artifacts they actually have, and most of the artifacts don't have any space at all. They're just left there in warehouses. They're not even on display. So having this one with all this space is actually really great, because now we're able to see a lot more of the artifacts that there was actually nowhere to display them at all in the original Cairo Museum. So hopefully we'll get even more of these artifacts up in the gym in the future. Like I said, there are 2 more exhibits that will be opening up soon. The Tutankhamun and the Khufu Solar Boat exhibit are going to be coming soon. There's a beautiful Sphinx again. And yeah, last year I actually went to another museum just opened in Cairo that's called the Museum of Civilization, which is housed inside a giant pyramid. And it's much smaller. There's not that much over there, but it's a 3rd museum right in Cairo you can go see as well. But this one, the gem, I was impressed. I've been waiting for so many years. When I finally got in, I thought they would just open one more room or something and keep dripping out these little pieces one at a time. But when I arrived and I heard that it had opened on the day I flew in, which they didn't announce ahead of time, they've been talking about it forever, but who knew when they were going to finally open? When they did, and I flew in on that day, I was so excited because I got to see all of this the 3rd day it was open. And even right now, it's only been open for a month, so a lot of this, I was one of the very first people to get to see it, and that's one of the reasons I decided to just open up this new kind of series by taking a little tour of the gem. I was really, really excited by it because I had no idea they were going to open all the main galleries excepting those 2. So it was a really nice treat when I first got in there, and it did take me the entire day. Now here's that one beautiful Akhenaten they have on the stairs. And on this trip I did get to go to Amarna, which was the city of Akhenaten, Tel El Amarna. The city was called Akhetaten, and I'm going to be sharing some videos about that very soon, which are really amazing. Some of the things I saw right in that area. It's a place that not many people get to because it's in between Upper and Lower Egypt. It's right in between, where practically no tour groups ever stop, because they're always flying from Upper Egypt to Lower Egypt and back. But Amarna and the Minya district has so much to offer that those are some of the most exciting videos I can't wait to share. And now we're back in the main hall here where you first enter. There's the staircase again. There's a few more statues over on the left side here. You can see over on those other staircases. And there you see the sun is hitting the Ramses II again. There's another cool pillar. If I kept scrolling over to the left more, that's where the restaurant is. And then this is back outside again. The facade right over the entrance. The whole modern art kind of feel to it. I think it could have been a little more Egyptian or ancient looking, but it also could have been a lot worse. I don't mind it so much. This is kind of the view of the pyramids when you're coming back around the plateau from the museum around towards the Sphinx again, which is where I stay in the village of Nazlat El Saman. So there's a good view showing the sunset after I finished up. And yeah, all in all, I was really happy with it. It was much better than I expected. There was so much more. Like I said, there's over 24,000 artifacts displayed there now. And yeah, I was really blown away. I was exhausted by the time I was finished because it was a full day of walking all around. So if you do go to Cairo, you should visit the gem. You should visit the Cairo Museum as well, and you can check out the Museum of Civilization also. This is another view from the village of Nazat al-Saman from the roof of one of my friend's hotels there. So another kind of parting shot, just wrapping up the day. It's the end of that same day. And I did also include, I think here, there's a couple, this is the menu from the restaurant, which I did actually eat at. It was not too expensive. It was pretty good. I got this shawarma sandwich, chicken, a coffee, and some baba ganoush, and it all came out to about $5. So thought it might be super expensive, but it was actually really good. And this is the back of the placemat that shows a little bit about the restaurant. Yeah, here's a parting shot from the entrance hall, and yeah, just last little shot looking down the east side of the museum towards the Great Pyramid. So that's the gem, and yeah, I gotta say I was really impressed. After waiting for so many years to finally get in there, it was better than I expected, and I'm looking forward to seeing the last few exhibits get put up. But yeah, I think it makes a nice kind of introduction to the new series I'm going to be putting out now, because now I'm going to start dropping videos from all over the entire country that will give a much better view of some of the things that people don't really bring attention to as much. Even at the main temples that everyone goes to, there's a lot more to see there, but this kind of gives a nice sampler of everything that's to come. So hope you enjoyed this tour of the gem, and I hope you check out the future films as well. And definitely look into the secret underworld of Giza, which there's going to be more episodes coming out in that series as well. They're going to get into some very interesting underground spaces at the plateau itself. So thanks for watching. So here's one last thing I can show you, is this alabaster cup that I got from the gift shop at the gym, and it was pretty reasonably priced. It's a nice heavy duty cup that you can put a tea light in, or I can show you with my flashlight what it looks like when the light's off. The effect I was talking about before. That's what it looks like when you shine the light through the alabaster. So all those vases I was showing, this is what it would have looked like. Just a candle inside would do this. And you can imagine what it would look like if you got to see one of those sarcophagus with the entire thing lit up. Or if you were on the inside of it and there were lights outside of it, the light coming in would all look like this. So, pretty great souvenir to get from the country. It's a really nice piece of Egypt you can take home with you. Good testament to the craftsmanship. It does go back a very ancient time. Alabaster shaping. So, there it is. Alright.